Days to go, not that we're counting until election day. Let's get into what's been happening over the past couple of days and bring in the Coalition's campaign spokesperson, Anne Ruston. Thanks very much for your time. You're talking about jobs today. I think it's 1.2 million out to 2027. What does that mean? When does it start? Is it from today? Is it the end of the campaign? Let's just nail down what this actually means.
Well, it's already started. I mean, one of the things that we've backed in this announcement today of the 1.3 million jobs over the next 5 years is all around training and making sure that Australians have got the skills that we need them to have to be able to fill the jobs of the future. Very importantly, a lot of this training is focused on things like aged care, disability care, childcare, and nursing, because we know that these are the areas where we certainly have got job shortages at the moment and predicting to have them in the future.
So the time frame, though, is what, from the budget to the end of 2027? What's the time frame matters for the pledge?
Oh, look, absolutely. And so the pledge is over the 5 years, starting from now.
From now for 5 years.
For 5 years, yeah. But 260...
April 2027.
Yep, or there, well, let's say June 2027. But for the 5 years of the term of this promise, 260,000 jobs a year. But as I said, we've already started on making sure that jobs are the absolute central tenet of everything that we do, because we know that it's a game changer in anybody's life having a job, but it's also we need to make sure that businesses have got the trained staff to be able to fill the roles that
some of them want them more from overseas, which would be easier to create the jobs. Is that going to happen with the migration cap?
Well, I think what we need to do going forward is that it's not a one policy or another policy. I think that we need to have a training policy for local jobs to make sure Australians are trained to take the jobs of the future, and we certainly want them to be having higher paid jobs and the jobs that are going to really drive the Australian economy. But at the same time, there is a place for migration to supplement...
To increase from where it is at the moment?
Well, I think what we have to do is to make sure that we work hand in hand. I think, we have got a cap on migration, and it's divided into the various sections, and that is our policy going forward. But I think we need to say that, migration and Australian-trained Australians are going to be needed to meet the jobs of the future.
The government's talking about a $300 billion spending increase by Labor over the decade. Can you give me brief back of an envelope? What's this predicated on from Labor promises they've made?
Okay, well, one of the things that we're really keen to understand from the Labor Party is what are sort of aspirational promises and commitments that they're really not going to be delivering as part of, their commitments if they form government, and what are their policies that they're taking to the election. And on Sunday morning on Insiders, Richard Marles said that they're out there telling Australians what they want to hear. What we need to know from the Labor Party is what actually are your policies? When are you going to tell us how you're going to cost them?
Okay, well, they do the normal costings process, but what specifically did Richard Marles say that would form part of this $300 billion?
Well, as I said, his comment was that they were out telling Australians what they want to hear. What we want to know from them is actually what is it that they're committing to.
But I'm just none the clearer on the $300 billion from what you said.
Okay, there are a series of policies that have been put out there, whether they be increasing, the overseas development assistance, whether it be universal kindergarten or early childhood.
But that universal kindergarten is not a Labor policy. That was a Labor platform. That's not a Labor policy.
Well, we need to know if they're telling Australians about all of these things that they aspire to be able to achieve. Tell us which ones they actually are taking to this election. Which ones?
But they are doing that, though. You do agree there's a difference between the Labor platform at their conference and what they actually take to elections?
Absolutely. So they need to be clear about which ones are which. You just can't throw things out. I mean, another example...
But they haven't thrown that out. Has anyone from the Labor team said they're taking to an election the policies you're talking about from the platform?
I believe that they've talked about domestic violence leave. We're not quite sure around changes to paid parental leave. There've been comments around these. Sometimes they say them, then they walk them back. I mean, I think the whole point here is that, we as the Coalition have got a fully costed plan. It's totally transparent. We've put it out there for all to see, and we're just asking the Labor Party to do the same thing.
The standard process is costings at the end, and that's where their policies go in. So that's fair enough, isn't it?
Well, I think that, the Australian public are expecting transparency. Mr Albanese's out there saying that, he wants everybody to be transparent. And I think if you're saying those sorts of things, then it's incumbent on you to be...
But that's what costings are. Once you've made all your promises, then you add up the number of them and release them at the end. That's what we do every election.
Yeah. Well, I think that, given the narrative that we've heard out there at the moment, we've been very transparent about what we are putting forward as our economic plan.
Okay.
At this stage, I don't think the Australian public knows
Okay.
what the economic plan of the Labor Party
Are you
is.
going to be named Health Minister?
Well, obviously, who's the next health minister should the coalition win the election is a matter for the Prime Minister.
Have you had any discussions about being Health Minister?
As I said, the matter about who's in the next cabinet and any announcements around
I know that,
it.
but have you had any discussions about being Health Minister?
Obviously, I haven't had any conversations, and it is absolutely the domain and the purview of the Prime Minister.
The domain of his. So you haven't had a single conversation with the Prime Minister about you being Health Minister?
I'm not going to enter into the private conversations I might or might not have with the Prime Minister.
Sounds
All
like
I
there
can
has
say,
been one.
all I can say to you is that this is a matter for the Prime Minister, and whatever role he asks me to serve in his party or in his government, I would be honoured to undertake.
Scott Morrison has lent his weight to a push for sporting organisations to be able to ban transgender women from playing in women's sport. Do you support that move?
Well, look, this is not quite as simple an issue. I mean, obviously, there are some very real concerns about the safety and the integrity of women's sport, and I respect those. But equally, I think what we've put forward here, or what's been put forward here by a backbencher, by Senator Chandler, is something that it will go through a normal process. And I think,
do you support it personally?
look, what I support in any of these situations is actually having a full and robust debate about the various issues. I think once we have this debate, you'll probably see a whole heap of issues come out.
Okay.
We need to make sure that we've got everything canvassed so that when we come to any...
You've got a backbencher saying they support it. You've got Scott Morrison saying he supports it. Do you support it?
Look, I support the conversation, and I certainly think there is some merit in relation to making sure that we have safety and integrity in women's sport.
Okay. Are there any organisations saying this is a problem, sporting organisations?
Well, I mean, I think there certainly has been quite a robust debate in the public.
No, but are there any sporting organisations saying they need this legislation?
Well, I mean, I think what Senator Chandler has done by putting this forward is enable a debate as to whether there is a need for any changes, and I respect that fact, and
Okay.
I look forward to the debate.
Anne Ruston, it's a busy few weeks. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.